want to give odds here, Paulie? Because I've maintained all along Aaron Rodgers is in Green Bay to start this season.
Okay.
Yes, Paulie.
Barring injury, right? Or he's a scheduled day one starter for the Packers, barring massive injury.
Yes.
I would bet 1,000 to anyone's 500.
1,000 to 500.
Yeah, anybody.
All right. Well, let me see if Florio wants a piece of that.
He's got money.
Mike Florio, Pro Football Talk Live, joining us now. You want to jump in on this, Mike?
No, I don't. One of the reasons I have money is I don't waste it on gambling. I go back and forth on this too. It's a beautiful mystery. It's what Aaron Rodgers wants us to think. He wants us to not know. I think the Packers, specifically the CEO, Mark Murphy, doesn't want him to show up. I think he's daring him to not show up. I think that's the only way to make sense of that gratuitous remark he made last week, calling him a complicated fella. I think Murphy would rather move on with Jordan Love, save $35 million in salary, and they would get bonus money back from Aaron Rodgers. They don't have to worry about him playing for the Broncos or anyone else and making them look stupid. Now they could trade him after the season. But I think at this point, Murphy, you attach him to a lie detector test, he'd have to say, yeah, I'd rather the guy not show up this year. And maybe that vibe makes Aaron Rodgers more determined to show up.
But you want to trade him, don't you, to get something for him? So you wouldn't do anything now? You would wait until after the season?
Yeah, I think at this point you get more after the season. You get more teams to the table.
Yeah.
It'd be like Peyton Manning in 2012. You'd have 10 teams. I think you'd easily have 10 teams after the season. Right now, you got the Broncos, maybe the Raiders. Maybe the Raiders. The Raiders saying all the right things about Derek Carr, but if Aaron Rodgers becomes available and you're looking at him going to the Broncos, how do you at least not make a phone call, if for no reason other than to drive up the price the Broncos have to pay? But after the season, when we have another, I was going to say 256, it's now 272 games, teams will look at their quarterbacks and say, got to get rid of that guy. Oh, Aaron Rodgers is available. Let's go get in line and try to get him.
Yeah, I'm just trying to understand the timing of all of this, Mike, that if you're Rodgers, give me Rodgers' side of this, that what is the end game for him this year?
Well, I find it fascinating, Dan, that guys like James Jones, who played with Rodgers, still talk to Rodgers, and more importantly, Rodgers still talks to them after they do media and say what Rodgers has said. I think Rodgers is doing a little puppet mastery through guys like James Jones. He says it's fixable. It's fixable. Well, okay, then fix it. Tell us what it's going to take to fix it. What does it take? I don't know. And as I told you on Friday, I think this is a high-stakes PR battle where each side is trying to make the other side look like the bad guy. And I just think right now Aaron Rodgers wants to create chaos. What was the line from one of the Batman movies? Some men just like to see the world burn. I think that Rodgers is just trying to make the front office of the Packers burn.
It's one thing that he says he loves everything about Green Bay. He loves the tradition. He loves the fans. He loves the coaching staff. He loves his teammates. So what if you don't like somebody in management? And if it is fixable, then what is it that needs to be fixed is what I want to know, because you can't undraft Jordan Love. That's not fixable unless you say we're going to trade him, and they don't want to do that.
Here's your poll question for today. Yes or no, is there someone in management at your workplace that you hate? Overwhelmingly, yes. And you still show up every day. So, and it's not like he has to deal with Mark Murphy in the locker room. And I would advise Mark Murphy and Brian Gutekunst to avoid the locker room and the practice field this year, unless they're going to wear cups. But you're there with your teammates. You're there with your head coach. You're there for the fans. The whole thing is PR driven, and who knows what Aaron Rodgers wants. And that's what he wants. He wants us talking about him, and he wants to reserve the right to say, why are you talking about me?
Yeah, but I don't know what the end game is, Mike. Is he willing to sit out and not play football this year? Does he want to be traded? Like, at some point, you have to get to, now let's sit down and discuss what's going to happen here. Is he just going to show up and play football this year and act as if none of this happened?
I thought for a long time that that's what he would do, Dan, that he would show up and basically say, what's the big deal? Is there, a booger that I'm unaware of? Why is everyone looking at me? And act like it's a media creation, because it always is our fault, obviously.
Yes.
They create the template that we react to, and it's our fault for reacting to it. But I just really, truly don't know. And I change my mind all the time. And I think I am a victim of what he's trying to create. It would be very easy for him to say what he wants, how he wants it. He doesn't have to. Packers fans get upset with me, or more accurately, Aaron Rodgers fans get upset with me when I say he should tell people what he wants. No, he doesn't have to. But when you don't, you create these situations where we end up obsessing over what the guy wants because for whatever reason he won't tell us what he wants.
He's Mike Florio, Pro Football Talk Live co-host with Chris Sims. You've got, less than 2 weeks for the veterans to show up? 2 weeks today. What's going to happen with Deshaun Watson? Is he eligible to show up for training camp?
This is a great question that has taken a back seat to the Aaron Rodgers drama. And Nick Caserio, the GM of the Texans, was on radio in Houston yesterday. And he said what the talking points have been for weeks now. They're not saying anything about Watson, et cetera. But at the end of the answer, he said, as we get close to training camp, we'll make the best decision that we can in the interest of the Houston Texans. Dan, I think that the Texans have been hoping, and I know that the Texans have been hoping that the 22 lawsuits pending against Deshaun Watson would be settled. Because if they're settled, you're able to trade Watson and you're able to get a lot for him in trade. That's the thing that teams are waiting to have go away if they can properly resolve the cases. And I've been an advocate of Deshaun Watson facing the music, having his reckoning, making these 22 individuals feel like they've gotten justice, had their quasi day in court, write the check and move on with your life, and then he can be traded. There's a possibility that the Texans are going to have to make a decision without the cases being settled. What do you do with Deshaun Watson as training camp arrives? Do you trade him for whatever you can get, which is a lot less if the 22 cases are pending, or do you let him show up? Because I think he will show up. Because if he gets put on paid leave, which people think will happen, Texans have to pay him $10 million to not play for them this year. So I think for the Texans, they have to ask, if the cases aren't settled, do we just take whatever we can get, bargain basement deal to trade Watson, or do we run the risk of paying him $10 million? And the other side of it too, and Sims and I were talking about this earlier today, at some point the league, I think, owes it to Watson, the Texans, and any team that would want to trade for Watson to give people an inkling of what they're thinking. Are you putting him on paid leave? You know, they had a lot of uncertainty with Antonio Brown 2 years ago. They wouldn't tell teams what they were going to do, and then no one would touch him. With this, he's under contract. He's getting $10 million this year from somebody. I think they should let the relevant people know what they're going to do so people can make their best decisions about what they're going to do moving forward.
The most interesting training camps will be where?
Well, obviously Green Bay. I mean, that's a given. Whether Rodgers is there or not there. It's either going to be Rodgers and, you know, making his passive-aggressive comments and then getting mad when people point out that he's made passive-aggressive comments, which I always like. Seattle is going to be compelling because, hey, did you hear Russell Wilson never asked for a trade? No, he didn't have to. He went on your show and he made it clear he wants out. And then his agent comes out and says, well, my client doesn't want to be traded. But in the event that he were traded, these are the 4 teams he'd play for. Of course, he was disgruntled and unhappy. He was miserable at the Super Bowl watching Patrick Mahomes and Tom Brady. How's that going to go? Are they able to set all that aside? And is he on board with the Shane Waldron offense? And, you know, the Jaguars training camp, just for sheer entertainment purposes with Tim Tebow and the college approach that Urban Meyer is bringing to town, is that going to work? So, you know, there's always that short list of must-see training camps that obviously never end up being the subject of Hard Knocks, but I wish they would. Okay,
you touched on Tim Tebow. I thought he was going to be a big distraction. We haven't had that distraction with Tim Tebow. When is that going to happen?
Well, they've kept him from talking to reporters, and I'm not up on the rules of when access is mandatory in the off season. Once you get into the regular season, everyone's got to be available at least once during the week and after each game. But the weirdest things happen, Dan. There's been at least 2 straight Urban Meyer press conferences, and the folks covering the Jaguars haven't asked about Tebow. Just haven't asked about it. And I get the impression locally they've gotten used to it, and that's helped this kind of not be a factor? He's just kind of going about his business. And I don't know, or are they getting the vibe that Meyer doesn't want to be asked about him? I don't know, but he's there. They're selling jerseys, and he's quietly learning the tight end position. I still think he's going to be on the team this year. They're going to find a way to get him on the team, on the field, catching 1-yard touchdown passes, throwing 1-yard touchdown passes, or having 1-yard rushing touchdowns.
It'll be awesome. It'll be awesome. That's another cottage industry. Do you realize the cottage industries we have in our world?
Oh, and I love them.
Like Aaron Rodgers, that's a cottage industry. The story about those covering the stories. LeBron is a cottage industry. Tom Brady is a cottage industry. There's certain guys that you have. I mean, the mothership has moved people around from city to city to cover LeBron James. Yeah, hey, we want you to relocate to Los Angeles to cover LeBron. It's pretty crazy.
Dan, people ask me, why do I keep writing and talking about Aaron Rodgers? Easy response. I am a businessman. I have access real time to my traffic. I see which stories people read. I give the people what they want. Isn't it funny in this business? You've got the people who give the fans and the readers what they want. And then you've got the people who give them what they think they should want. And those are the ones that don't stay in business. It's that simple.
I'll check back in with you soon, Mike.
Anytime.
Thank you, bud.
Anytime.
That's Mike Florio, Pro Football Talk Live co-host.